Hey, this is Tony Madison. We're in the Wild Cardinal Network studios again this week as the Wild Cardinals have gone on to round 2 of the playoffs after their victory over Pleasant Grove. So we're going to talk round 2 this week. The Powerhouse Sports, everybody I listen to as far as podcasts all week, the game of the week is Jackson and Hanley. Jackson travels to Hanley for a round 2 matchup. What do you think of that, Franklin?
I don't know. This would be a really good game. It's at Jackson, correct?
At Hanley.
It's at Hanley. So those Jackson Aggies, they travel very well too, especially a big playoff game like this. Definitely the biggest game of the week. Ooh, I don't know who to choose here. I mean, Hanley's just an absolute dominant force, having a really great year, and then Jackson just really want to get their get back with winning state last year. They want all the seniors, though, their running back, their quarterback, their receiver, their corner to get another state championship under the belt before they go off to college. So I gotta go with Hanley on this one. I think Jackson's having too high hopes for this season, and that we saw in the St. Michael game. They thought they had it all, and then got down, and it was never able to come back. So I got Hanley on this one.
Mitchell, game of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all depends on how Jackson comes out. I mean, you saw Jackson come out in pretty much all their games really flat in the first half. I mean, their defense played flat, their offense played flat. But then kind of towards the end of the second quarter in most games, they started to pick it up just a little bit, and then that led to some momentum into halftime and then after halftime as well. And I think that's where they kind of blew out opponents like Mobile Christian and W.S. Neal. But I think that flat-footedness can come back to bite them. Hanley is in no regards a team that they can look over. I think Hanley is one of the only other teams besides us that have a chance at actually beating Jackson. So with that being said, I think Hanley playing a home game, I think Hanley can really win. Hanley had a great atmosphere last time we went up there and played them. And I mean they can run the ball like nobody else. I mean Hanley they have a really good running back, they have a really good rushing attack. So I don't know how Jackson will play with that run defense. They'll probably bring a lot of stunts, probably blitz a lot of backers. But I mean I'm sure Hanley can throw the ball too, you know. And Jackson's pass defense hasn't been the best all season long. Especially playing like a spread-like offense like we play. I mean, their defense was just flustered all over the place, leaving like Braden Smith wide open for touchdown. Braden Walton had a great game. So I think it all depends on that. But if Jackson comes out flat-footed in that first half, I wouldn't be surprised if Hanley picks up to win and they go to the second round or the next round.
What do you think, Coach?
Well, you know, we go back in time.
Let me find out if you can be as non-committal as Mitchell was.
The Thriller in Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle. This time you've got the second round game in Roanoke. It's going to be a tough place to play and not going to be easy. But I'm going out on a limb. You know, I've had a little bit of time to think, and I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if Hanley pulls the upset. But the more I think about it, you know, if they're in that I formation, they might actually play into Jackson's strength versus trying to spread the field and attack open space. And I know that Jackson has Mr. Chapman back at wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not only with him and Gordon and then Kroll, until you beat the champ, I'm going to roll with the champ. You know, until you can knock them out for sure. And I just feel like maybe, you know, everybody, them being number 2 in the state and the defending champ, if I'm coach over there, I'm just feeding my guys all week. We ain't got a chance per the pundits. You know, everybody's picking Hanley. But we play the games, okay? We're going to go out and play, and they might be able to use that as a little extra motivation. You know, they come out and just wallop to Ashford. I would like to see with the lights on. I have a feeling Jackson's going to come out and flex. I'll go out on that limb. I'm going to ride that one.
Yeah, I think it was only besides that one Noah Moss touchdown, it was like 30 yards. Jackson did a very good job controlling us on the ground. Now, in the past, like Mitchell said, they had a pretty tough time. But this team Hanley reminds me a lot of UMS. They're not only like their play style, their uniforms, just a very run-heavy team. And something that, like you said, that'll fall right into Jackson's hands.
That could, but then right about that time they switch gears. I think they've got a pretty good quarterback. When I talked to a couple different people about this, I got two different, actually some very highly opinionated people that say, no, you're crazy. Jackson's going to walk away with everything, and everybody's going to be crying at the end of the night. And then I got the other thing, Hanley. Man, they're higher rated. Mm-hmm. They could do the job. But nobody was really as high on Hanley as they were on Jackson. I will say that. Hanley, though, is 7-1 when they're home in round 2.
Wow.
There's something about history. You always got to bring that into play. It's a home field game. That's one of the reasons they're 7-1 into round 2. There's something to be said about that. So I'm still going to tip my hat to Hanley on that one. I think all yellow helmets disappear from the board after Friday, and we'll be traveling to Hanley, is my opinion. So when you look at that, right after that, we got American Christian and W.S. Neal. W.S. Neal was a 3 seed going up against the number 1 seed. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's not your average 3 seed. I mean, if you look where they're bunched up, obviously behind Jackson, who's the 2 seed, and St. Michael as we finish number 1, that's not a traditional 3 seed. What I do like is I talked about the duo of Crook and Clark. I think it's going to be hard for American Christian to, if you ever navigated your way from Tuscaloosa to East Brooklyn, it's not exactly the smoothest of routes. So you're going to factor in they're going to travel, and WS Neal is going to be hosting a playoff game. I don't know how many years it's been since they've hosted a playoff game. I know they had to travel, I believe. They might have hosted that. I think they hosted against Fairfield. But to do it consistently and over, like last year, you asked about momentum last week. Yes, they're riding old momentum. Wins over Orange Beach, Mobile Christian, and then, the Battle of Murder Creek. They took down their arch nemesis. They go on the road, and defeat Opp by 21 points, and they're back at home this week in the comforts of their stadium with their fans and everything. I think W.S. Neal's going to advance. Just a simple recipe. Mix in a little play action, run Crook, give the ball to Clark, bring Ewing in, pound him some, and, throw when you need to.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think W.S. Neal walks away with this. I think American Christian came up from 3A a few years back. But, I really agree with you on that. W.S. Neal is not a traditional 3 seed. I think W.S. Neal in any other region can probably be the 1 seed. There are some regions out there in 4A that are pretty weak. And I bet you W.S. Neal could probably run through that whole region and maybe even go undefeated in the season. So yeah, I think W.S. Neal blows past American Christian pretty easily. They have a pretty balanced attack, I would say, on offense, and their defense is pretty stout. So yeah, I think I agree with you completely, Coach BD.
You think W.S. Neal can keep on a roll?
Yeah, W.S. Neal having a really good season. And besides UMS and Jackson, I think W.S. Neal is really only one of the only teams that can really keep up with us this year. St. Michael having a great offense and a pretty good defense, but not as great as their offense. W.S. Neal put up a lot of good points and was able to hold. I believe W.S. Neal was winning at halftime, and that was like one of the only games that St. Michael had been doing that all year or up to that point. And so I think W.S. Neal will have a very good shot of beating American Christian and making it to the semifinals against Jackson or Hanley.
I'd like to see, actually, it'd be a good matchup, I think, to W.C. Neal and Jackson again. That would be a good game, in my opinion. I think W.S. Neal actually is going to win this game. American Christian, they're the number 1 seed. They're coming out of the top in their region. You would think that, Mobile Christian ranked as a 4 seed. You hate to put power in those numbers, but there has to be at least some power in that number. But I think, that W.S. Neal ranked number 3. I'm sorry, I looked at Mobile Christian real quick. They're ranked number 3. That I think that they can continue on that role and take care of American Christian. Probably an upset from last week as we look further down the line is Mobile Christian over Dale County, a number 4 seed against the number 1, and Mobile Christian came out on top. What do you think about that? And how do you think Mobile Christian would do this week against Bullitt County?
Well, we said it once and said it again that Region 1 is easily, I think, the best region in the state, looking at all the teams. And by no means, I think Mobile Christian, much like WS Neal, should be a 4 seed in any other region. And so I think Mobile Christian, with a very good win against Dale County, will take it to Bullock City and Bullock County and take it back. Another running back has had an amazing season, and he put up some really good numbers against us. And so I'm excited to see the outcome of that game. I think Mobile Christian come on top.
There's one thing to be said about that there has never been a number 4 seed win a state championship in any classification in Alabama. There's only been one number 4 seed make it to the state championship game, and they lost it, and that was like in 1984 or something like that.
Yeah.
So there has to be at least some power in the number where you get seated and how you end up in your region.
Yeah,
How
Mobile
about you?
Christian.
Did Mobile Christian continue on? I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
yeah, I mean, I by no means I think they can make it to the state championship, but I mean, they got get through us, and they got to get through either Jackson or Handler, Dibbiss Neal, and that's something that they haven't been able to do all season.
Yeah, it's not going to happen again this year.
Yeah, no. Bullitt County, we're talking about this earlier, historic season, nice run, but that comes to an end this Friday night.
Yep.
I think Mobile Christian is going to go up there and do what they do, sprinkle in a few passes. They're going to give the ball to 2 and let Mr. Todd get behind that offensive line and do his thing all night. And then obviously with defense, I think they'll be able to do a really good job on Bullitt County. So I'm sticking with my other pick as well from last week. I got Mobile Christian rolling on, to the third round.
I do as well. Bullitt County, it's the best, I think, year in their school history. They consider it their best season in their school history.
I think it was like their first playoff game they've won in
quite a few years.
Some years, yeah.
No, which is great for them. That's awesome. But that first year kind of thing, they're not breaking records as they're doing it. They're
Right.
just really having a solid, good year. But I think that comes to an end against Mobile Christian this week. And then the final game from the South bracket we'll talk about here, of course, is St. Michael and Pleasant Grove. One thing I will say, as far as Pleasant Grove versus BT Washington, all of that being said, one of the hardest things to look at when you do look at those numbers, a 2 against a 3 is just up for grabs. Those numbers don't
definitely.
really count when you look at that. So Booker T and Pleasant Grove, I understand that some people look at that as an upset, but that may be said, we're still traveling to Pleasant Grove. What do you think of that?
Yeah, we played them last year and handled them
Same round,
pretty
same
well.
place.
Yeah, we handled them pretty well, but I think another factor that St. Michael will have to go under is the weather. We haven't really played in any cold games this year. No, this week, I mean, the Lord's blessed us. We were practicing in the cold weather, getting us ready for this game, but UMS wasn't really that cold of a game. It was a little chilly, but I mean, we'll into the 40s. I think that could be a factor for the Cardinals as they go up to Birmingham, but I expect nothing less than to them get it done and head on round 3.
How about it, Mitchell?
I mean, I don't. I'm kind of concerned about this Pleasant Grove team. I think they can show some flashes against us, obviously, but I mean the way our team has been playing, kind of these past couple games, I think that UMS game was a really big wake up call for us that we're not invincible, whatever. And I think that game against Pike County last week was kind of just an ease into it game to kind of just get eased into playoffs. And kind of just showed different looks. I mean, Pike County didn't really throw the ball at all. They were more of a run-heavy team. I mean, which is fine. And we'll probably see that a lot throughout the playoffs. I mean, most teams where we're going to play, they're pretty run-heavy. Pleasant Grove did lose their head coach, I believe. He went to Hoover.
Quarterback, too.
Yep, they lost their quarterback as well. So they are hurting on that. But, I mean, I think there's too many weapons on our offensive side of the ball, and I think there's too many, great players on our defensive side of the ball, and we'll probably have Brody or Noah playing 2 ways or both ways if it comes to that. But I mean, I think we just overpower them by a good bit. So I think St. Michael should handle it pretty easily, and I think we should walk out of Birmingham with a win.
BD, when you look at that, and sometimes it's pretty easy to say, hey, the Cardinals are going to roll through this game, and maybe we don't play Noah Moss on defense, that type of thing. But it's the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, here's what I like. I always like to approach things, being a coach, from the coaching side of it.
Do you do load management in the playoffs? I guess is my question. I don't.
Yeah. Familiarity and routine. You did this last year. You have it mapped out from the time that you leave to what rest area you're going to stop at. Let the guys stretch their legs out. Where you're going to stop. Where you're going to have your meal. All the logistics already covered. You did that last year in the second round. You also did it last year in the third round, having to go back-to-back from Pleasant Grove to Fairfield. And also this year, we've already made the trip to Birmingham in a game to play John Carroll, week 2 of the year. I think from that standpoint, you feel good about everything. Then the other part is getting everybody up to play and making sure that we're all on the same page, whether it's your assignments. We know that we've had some issues every once in a while on defense with teams that like to run the ball. We'll get a little aggressive and might not, stay in our lane or, have the outside containment, get caught up in the wash a little bit. But I think it's going to be a tough game. Going on the road to Pleasant Grove, they're going to remember what happened to them last year when they were the favorites, and got knocked out. Do I think we will win? Yes. But at the same time, I don't think this will be a cakewalk. Mm-hmm. And it's going to come down to preparation, which I feel good about our staff having everybody prepared. Mm-hmm. And if we contain the run and we can smother the run early, and if we can get out and play in front like we did on them last year, I think we're going to be just fine.
Now, Coach, coming from a coach's standpoint, with Noah Moss having his best game of his career and Gunnar not having his best game of the year of his career, how does that look going forward? Like, do you play Noah Moss more and do more run plays and have such a great game last week, or do you try to give Gunnar another chance and throw the ball more?
Well, I think from the coaching side, it's a short memory. As Gunnar will have a short memory. All these guys will have a short memory. What you're going to do is, as you're pouring over film, you're going to look for the matchups that favor us, obviously. Mm-hmm. And if it's run, then obviously you're going to run. If it's pass, you're going to pass. But at the same time, if you've got somebody hot like that, you can feel the tone early. Your plays are scripted. Mm-hmm. And if you like what you see so far, then you can just branch off and venture off what's working. I don't think it's a matter of, somebody didn't have a good game the week before, because I truly believe that good players, they're going to forget all that, and they're going to be ready. Mm-hmm. Sometimes. So think about this. It might not necessarily be your day or night, and you still win by 21 points in a playoff game.
Yep.
There's a lot to be said about that. Yeah, is there work to be done? Of course, but to dwell on it, no, not at all. Now, if it's like that this week and you barely scrape by, then maybe we need to, take a look at something. Mm-hmm. But no, I think these guys are going to be fine. Coaching staff, players, no, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, no, we'll be set. One thing I'd like to add about Noah's game, if you look at it, he only had 16 runs.
Right.
360 yards and 16 runs, 6 touchdowns, 4 of them were over 40 yards. Mm-hmm. I don't think the coaches expected that.
No.
You can't.
No.
You know what I mean? So even during the game, handing the ball off to Noah, you're just, another touchdown. Thank you very much. So you have games like that. The player just gets on like that, and of course you ride that, pony all the way through the victory line. There's no question about that. Pleasant Grove isn't going to allow that to happen. However, Pleasant Grove, points scored this year, they're averaging 22 points a game, and they're giving up 28. That giving up 28 is their problem. St. Michael's going to come in there and maybe put up 50 on them, is my feeling. So we'll all be going home early, in my opinion, which is not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
So let's move on to I used to be able to do this. Let's move on to the north and quick cover some things that are going on up there. We had some victories. All the number 1 seeds moved on. Basically, you've got some 5 undefeated teams in 4A, West Morgan, Anniston, Hamilton, and who else is the last one?
It's Deschler down there at the
and then
bottom.
St. Michael. Deschler got beat by West Morgan, so they can't be undefeated.
Is it Hamilton?
I got it all right here. We got Anniston, Hamilton, Plainview, St. Michael, and West Morgan are all undefeated. So the number 1 seeds all moved on. You've got West Morgan, Good Hope going to West Morgan. Man, West Morgan is on a roll. 34 games, regular season game winning streak. They lost last year in the playoffs. Otherwise, they would have won for the last 3 years straight almost. That's incredible. How do you stop them if you're Good Hope?
Well, going into that game, Good Hope was playing, I believe they played Cherokee County, which was the Sabre Runner-Ups. 1 by 2, barely snuck away. But I think this West Morgan team is kind of just too, I don't know, I think they're too powerful. And I really think the only team that can kind of beat West Morgan as of now is Deschler. But not knowing the state of Deschler as it is, heard there were a couple incidents that happened. So I don't know how this will shake up, but I don't know. I think if you're Good Hope, you gotta stick to your style of ball, and really focus on what has worked for other teams, like what worked for Deschler in that West Morgan game, the final game of the regular season, because obviously something worked because they held them to 13 points. So just find those little weaknesses, I guess, and see what you can do. But I think at the end of the day, I think West Morgan continues on. They continue that undefeated season.
BD's correct. Mitchell. BD, I think Mitchell's correct right there from a standpoint. Good Hope has got to continue doing what they have done.
Yeah.
There's no other question about that. We already spoke about that. However, West Morgan's scoring, averages 41.6 a game.
Yeah.
They're on a winning streak.
Yeah.
How do you stop it?
Well, it's a good story. Good Hope. I think it comes to an end. Your only chance to probably stop that is have somebody, kill the power, maybe get the game terminated or something. But that many wins in a row at home. If you're going to West Morgan, we talk about momentum. They're hotter than Texas chili right now. I'm going to stick with West Morgan. There's something to be said about that winning at home, which tells me they have a great environment. And you squeak out one by 2 points over Cherokee County, which hard, tough-fought game. But, having to go there, I'm going to go with West Morgan. Just ride the momentum.
Franklin, the defense of Good Hope does hold their opponents to 12 points on average. But
Yeah,
I don't think that's good enough against West Morgan.
That's a really good average. And I think the biggest thing going into this game, much like St. Michael versus Jackson, is getting ahead early and keeping them not winning the game. Because, at the end of the day, whoever has the most points is going to win the game, obviously. And if Good Hope just keeps them back early and holds true to that around the 12-point range, I think Good Hope can have a good shot at beating West Morgan and knocking them out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I thought of something. Just had a memory serves me correctly. I think Cherokee County's played in the last 3 state championship games.
Yes.
And the thorn in West Morgan's side has been Cherokee County, and they are no longer here. So
So that'll help. Yeah, of course. No, I'm high on West Morgan. They're playing well. They have been for a couple of years. They'll continue on, no problem at all. We'll move down to Plainview, and Alexandria heads to Plainview. Both of those, Plainview, the number 1 seed out of Region 8, and Alexandria, the Region 6, number 2 seed. What do you think, Mitchell?
You said Plainview was undefeated, correct?
Yes.
I think Plainview rides that momentum. Alexandria has a pretty good team this year, obviously with being the 2 seed from their region. But I think it's kind of what you said. I think there's power in seeding, and where you're seated. So I mean, yes, it's a 1 and 2, but I really wouldn't be surprised if Alexandria walked in there and won. But I think I got to take Plainview here.
Yeah, besides the momentum, I think there's a big difference between being 10-0 in the regular season and being 10-0 going into the playoffs. I think going into the playoffs, you got to start 0-0. Your real record doesn't really matter anymore. You have a new record. And so, BD coming from a coach's standpoint, does having that, besides momentum, does that really have an effect on the team?
Yeah, I believe so. If I'm picking this game as well, I'm gonna go with Plainview. But I think what you have to look at are underlying factors on undefeated teams. Mm-hmm. Are you an undefeated team that's just cruised through, blown everybody away, but yet you've not had any adversity? You've had to really dig down deep and find out what your team is made of. How will they respond? Being at home, I'm a huge proponent of teams that are at home. With your
especially
crowd.
Undefeated teams at home.
There's something to be said about that. Their home record, 6-0 this year. That speaks volumes, but also being 5-0, there's something about teams that are battle tested that go on the road and can pull those off. I think playing those games like that only strengthens your team and your cause when you're back at home, and especially in a playoff game.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I mean, because you look at the opponents' records and things such as that, and maybe Plainview played a little bit stronger record when you look at the stats and everything like that. But they're at home. That's all there is to it. They're on a winning streak. There's a lot to be said for momentum, especially the playoffs. That kind of thing. So move on down. We had Region 6, number 1, Anniston against Madison Academy. Madison Academy, Region 8, number 2. Really no surprises out of the North.
No, and right behind Plainview is Plainview number 1 and Madison Academy number 2. Up to play Anniston. I got to ride the train again. Go with number 1 Anniston on this one. Just have a really good year. Another undefeated year. And I think they'll ride that way all the way to the
It's hard to look at this bracket and see upsets. Do you think?
Yeah. I'm going to ride Anniston as well. I mean, even going back to when they were in our classification at Foley a long time ago, us having to travel up there and, them just wiping the floor with us. There's something to be said about that history in that Anniston, that Oxford area. A lot of great football. I'm going to roll with Anniston.
Anniston 11-0, one of the undefeated teams left in the league. And then, I'm going to go with Anniston as well. They're home. They're winning. I had them reasons last week as well. My game of the week in the North is Hamilton and Dreschler, and I tell you what, I flipped on only one team this week, guys, and that was Dreschler. The bad mojo coming out of Dreschler, we won't, necessarily dwell on it, but it's just not good, and that doesn't lead to good vibes, I guess, is only one way to put it. I just think Dreschler, going up Hamilton, is on a winning streak as well. They're undefeated. Dreschler's got to travel. I flipped on that. I give it to Hamilton.
Yeah, I think a big part of a football team is the morale and going into the game, how they play as a unit, because you can't just go in a football game and have the running back play all by himself. You got to play as a unit. If the quarterback's not happy with the offensive line, they're not going to block as well, And so I think having team unity is a big part. That's why I think St. Michael's done so well, because the team really plays as a unit and they're all happy with each other's performances. And that's why I got to go Hamilton in this one.
What say you?
Yeah, like you said, Mr. Tony, the vibes of Dreschler aren't where you want them to be right now, especially playing playoff football. Some stupid mistakes that they made, but
sometimes a team can take a situation that looks bad and turn it into motivation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't see that happening here, though.
No, I don't either. I think when you look at it, Hamilton undefeated, playing at home again as the 1 seed. Again, power in seeding, and there's also power in momentum. Old momentum can do lots of things, and it can change the outcome of many games. So when you look at it on paper, you got to go Hamilton, and I think when you look at it from just a regular standpoint, you got to go Hamilton. I don't think Dreschler has the power now to win this game and continue on throughout the playoffs. So I think their playoff run comes to an end.
BD, one thing they've got to overcome. Now, I'm not necessarily one on spreadsheets, but there's somebody somewhere putting numbers into a spreadsheet and coming out with other numbers, and they've got Hamilton way down compared to Dreschler, about 5 slots underneath them there. So they're giving more credence, I think, to Region 7. What say you when you look at something like that?
Well, a couple of different things. Talking about the rankings or power ratings, however you want to call it, it's like I tell everybody, if you're looking at rankings and you're enamored with these kind of things, you can get caught up in the outside noise.
Yeah.
So I think a couple things can happen. Can Dreschler take this adversity, which seems like a ton to overcome? Can they rally around that? Can they unify as a team? If you're able to do that, hats off. But I'm not going against my pick, but I don't know if that's the case. But there's one thing I want to say. Hamilton on their winning streak, there's something about high school sports to me that is they're the greatest sports. This is the perfect example. Now, you tell me everybody in Hamilton will not be out on that Friday night cheering for their team. The small town vibe, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the fans, doesn't matter who you are, religion, you throw everything out. On that one given night, everybody finds common ground, and that's their high school team. I'm changing my pick, and I'm going to take Hamilton rolling against Dreschler. I think that's too much adversity, but I will say this. If Dreschler comes out and wins, and they rally around this adversity,
Wouldn't surprise me.
Holy guacamole, you better watch out.
Yeah. Then I'm going to flip my
pick back.
Pick again.
Yeah, me too. Fairweather Johnson over here,
Well, that did up at my Final Four, because I did flip one of my Final Four. A whole 25% of my picks I changed over the weekend. But I did bring Hamilton into the Final Four over Anniston, and then, of course, West Morgan coming into the Final Four. So you'll see in the semifinals, according to me, Hanley, we will have to travel to again. What do you think?
Yeah, I remember traveling with them, I think 2 or 3 years ago. We went up there and traveled. Just an amazing community up there. Really tough place to play in. Traveling yet again, the Cardinals. Last year we saw, besides the Jackson game, that they've handled traveling pretty well. Going to Birmingham twice, 2 times in a row, and handling business there. So I think this won't be any different. I think the St. Michael crew will go all the way, not just the broadcasting, but the fans. They'll take it all the way to Birmingham. They'll go to Alaska if we need to get this thing done. I think that'll be a really good game. I think the Cardinals will come on top.
Mitchell, St. Michael is really excited about their football squad. They're 11-0. Man, it's the talk of the town. You go to Hanley, they're the talk of the town. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I think it all depends on where our run defense stands at that point. Obviously, again, if we make it to that point, lots of run teams are going to be playing. So there's going to be a lot of adjustments that we make, whether that's bringing Nick or Abram or, Cam or Jack Kurth down in that box and keeping them there, maybe playing a 4-down front even with the defensive linemen. So it really depends on that. When you're playing the more run-heavy teams, we're probably going to play more of a loaded box, which would make a lot of sense. Hanley runs the ball a ton, but their defense is also one thing that we can't get caught up in. Last year, I mean, they put up a lot of points. They put up a lot of points last year on us, and we put up points right back at them. So it felt like a very back-and-forth game. So I think that game could be really back-and-forth now that Hanley has some more strength. Last year, they're a little bit younger than what they would have hoped for. But, I mean, Hanley's a dangerous team, and you got to watch out for them. But, again, I think we have too many weapons on that side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball, and I think our defense is going to play lights out throughout the playoffs with the more looks they get and the more teams they play. So I think St. Michael wins, and I don't think it'll be a blowout by any means. I think it'll be pretty close. But I mean, I think we beat Hanley probably around the late third, early fourth quarter, though.
Provided, of course, that game happens. BD thinks Jackson might win that game. So let's skip over that one, and we'll all come together next week, and we'll look at it. BD, let's skip to the north. I got West Morgan coming out on top over Hamilton in the semifinals. And then St. Michael, of course, winning that game because I don't have them losing.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, I like that. Fortunately for us, we're not going to sit back and have revisionist history on our picks, correct?
Yeah.
To where we go back and we can change. It's like I said, when you really dig down and you dive into these things, when I was looking, that Cherokee County really was the thorn in West Morgan's side. Semifinal matchup last year. Obviously, Cherokee County won to go on to the finals. They're not here. So sometimes with teams, there's that one obstacle hurdle you can never get past. And I think this might be the year for West Morgan. They won their region. Overcame Deschler, and here they are. Cherokee County's out. Why not? If it's their year, it's their year. I could easily foresee St. Michael and West Morgan in the finals.
They got 3 undefeated teams left in the north.
Yeah.
You think this is the way it could end up? Will end up?
Yeah, it definitely could. And BD, do you think Elmer's County, with last year Jackson beating Cherokee County by 60 points in the first half? Is this the same kind of matchup, whether it be Hanley, Jackson, St. Michael, any of these teams from the south playing either West Morgan, Hamilton, even Deschler can sneak into there? Is this the same kind of matchup going into the state championship?
Yes. I believe so. I think
You think South takes it?
Yeah, the South is going to win. The semifinal game, whoever's in it for the South, to me, is the de facto state championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I think these teams have, really good defense, but I think what will come back to get them is the offense, because whether it's St. Michael, Jackson, Hanley, these guys can score, and they can score quick.
Mm-hmm.
And as Cherokee County found out, just trying to run the ball, yeah, they never had a chance against Jackson last year.
Mitchell, your thoughts on a potential championship West Morgan St. Michael?
I think it's the most likely option that's probably going to happen, especially West Morgan coming out of the north. I feel like the competition up in the north is a little bit subpar to the south. I think when you look at it, the south just has so many packed teams, and I think that's why teams have – it's kind of like the SEC versus the Big Ten debate, whatever you want to call it. There are some really strong teams up north, but also I feel like everybody, pretty much all the teams down south, especially in Region 1, are just so tough to play against. So I agree with you. I think anything that happens in the south, whoever comes out on top is probably going to be the state champion.
I agree. And St. Michael, in my opinion, is the one headed down that road. So there's your prognostication from the WCN crew this week, round 2 of the playoffs. We've got St. Michael going on, Hanley going on, Jackson maybe going on. Whatever you want to know, St. Michael Cardinals are headed to round 3, and the Wild Cardinal Network will be there. Join us next week. We'll cover round 3. Thank you. Franklin Cash, Mitchell Swanson, Coach BD, signing off. Until next time.
Go Cardinals.
Happy Veterans Day, too.